is failure to communicate.
I shot him 6 times. What? I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart.
Can't have gotten very far. Come on.
I shot him 6 times.
As we bask in the withering amber glow of this scarlet-scented season of perpetual twilight, we are invariably browbeaten with a singular word, the summation of all that is the fear which lurks in the places of our hearts we often aggressively seek to ignore. The hauntingly crafted avatar of All Saints' Day, All Hallows' Eve, the Holy Eve, and All Year's Night. The night where tricks become treats and candy becomes currency. The night of playful, sinister charades and a cavalcade of commercialized, costumed craziness. The night of 1,000 screams and at least that many shitty horror movies. The night where all the souls are let out to wreak havoc on the living. The night he came home. Set the Wayback Machine, Sherman. We're taking it back to the year 1978. Star Wars is still the hottest shit in the galaxy, and fright movies have hit an all-time low. The last noteworthy horror film was The Exorcist in 1973, and the closest thing to a horror film we've gotten in recent years is Jaws. And while it's an absolutely brilliant and effectively horrifying film, I think it does a disservice to both the genre and to Spielberg's masterful storytelling to call it simply a horror movie. Enter John Carpenter, whose recent films Dark Star from 1974 and Assault on Precinct 13 from 1976 were modestly successful, but didn't exactly set the world on fire. So, he was handed a script by independent producers Irwin Yablans and Mustafa Akkad about a psychotic killer targeting babysitters. In just about 2 weeks, Carpenter and girlfriend Deborah Hill had crafted an incredibly taut and spooky psychological horror story, the likes of which hadn't been seen up to that point. It created an iconic boogeyman in league with Dracula as an antagonist that haunts our collective dreams, and became a household name. And they did it with a William Shatner mask. This film, which launched an entire subgenre, and born of it a countless number of copycats, is, by modern standards of horror, somewhat quaint. It is, however, a very tightly told story, shot uniquely, and uses the concept of less is more to great effect. We don't even see Michael until the first 20 minutes into the film. The characters are all likable, which creates a lot of tension when they're put in mortal danger. The soundtrack is chilling and stark. The plot is simple, but effective, with just enough character development to give us a foothold on sympathizing with the terror they're faced with. Carpenter's Halloween is commonly referred to as one of the greatest horror films ever made, and was, in 2006, selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. It spawned 13 sequels, prequels, reboots, whatever, ranging from barely watchable, Halloween 2, 1981, to embarrassingly terrible, Halloween Resurrection, H2O, to befuddlingly disconnected, Halloween 3. The last 3 films, directed by David Gordon Green, I would describe as follows. Halloween, 2018, the sequel to the original film, unremarkable. Halloween Kills, unmemorable. Halloween Ends, unintelligible. If any of the previous films were another nail hammered into the coffin of this deader-than-dead franchise, then Halloween Ends is the foot-long railroad spike driven straight through the lid and into the heart of whatever Shatner-masked, lifeless, jumpsuit-wearing gimp is lying in state within. It's literally 2 terrible movies in one. I guess that's value added. The main story has to do with awkward not Jake Gyllenhaal, Corey, babysitting for a couple's children while they go out to dinner. Through a series of idiotic contrivances, he accidentally kills the kid, just as the parents come home. Cut to several years later, and he's had a somewhat rough time being blamed by many in town for the death of the kid, but he seems pretty well adjusted. He meets a girl and they hit it off, and then the movie goes completely off the rails, as he starts to murder random assholes around town. They then introduce Michael Myers, 40 minutes into the film, who as usual is killing random assholes around town. I guess because it's technically his movie. Not Gyllenhaal is just some random asshole who also happens to be murdering the same people, also with no real motivation other than having accidentally killed someone many years ago. The disconnect between motivation and connection is head-scratching. The two plot threads don't mesh at all, and don't even make sense individually. There's no reason that not Gyllenhaal should go on a killing spree. There is never a creditable justification for this plotline, nor is it ever actually connected to Michael Myers. There's also never any reason given as to why Michael just breezes by this kid who's murdering people on his turf. They end up wrestling in a sewer, and that's it. Even Red Letter Media, who is inexplicably simping for this desperate lump of hamster shit, comes up with a dozen ways that this story could have been told in a semi-coherent way. None of the kills are inventive or tense, they just happen, and the plot rolls on. No one outside of the core cast is ever aware of any of the dozen or so murders that occur throughout the night. There really isn't any kind of satisfying resolution to any of the plot lines. Corey just ends up killing himself in front of Laurie. Michael and Laurie face off, and she kills him again. It's not fresh or unique, and it's not particularly well shot either. My only real hope is that the title is accurate, and that this desecration of a once great film can finally come to an end. But alas, Halloween comes every year, and I imagine so will another nail in the coffin of the undying Michael Myers.